Well, the Golden State is the gold standard in a lot of things. Rampant crime, homelessness, skyrocketing cost of living, and a governor determined to stick it to the president however he can. They're now also the gold standard in unemployment. California's unemployment rate now the highest in the country at 5.5%. In July, above the national rate of 4.2%. California's tech sector is dealing with one of the toughest markets in years. Companies are getting rid of the jobs they overhired for during COVID, and a growing number of workers are getting replaced by AI. Instead of addressing it, Newsom is blaming Trump's war on affordability and small businesses. John, I'll start with you on this. Is California going to drive the rest of the country into recession? I think this idea that it's AI that's the problem is a canard, and it's probably the policies coming out of the governor that's driving people and companies out of California.
You know, Jerry, I agree with you, but perhaps a little bit of disagreement on AI that's perhaps slowed down hiring, if not resulted in a loss of jobs in tech. But the real problem is too much regulation, and taxes are just too darn high in California. That's what's driving companies out. And it's also the quality of life. My goodness. I mean, you have all of this homelessness in San Francisco and Los Angeles and crime to worry about, influx of illegal aliens. I've had enough of this. So people are leaving. Businesses are leaving, primarily taxes being way too high. The cost of living's too high. Real estate's too high, in large part because of regulations. Good luck.
Yeah, and I also think another point is Gavin Newsom constantly says we have the fourth largest economy in the world, something like that. You have the fourth largest economy in the world, and you tanked its unemployment on top of everything else you just listed. So that is not an accomplishment of yours. And when we talk about AI, I think California is a really good example because they are the same type of people that are pushing for a rise in the minimum wage. They want $15, $20, $25. We are seeing AI already displace workers now. Imagine the impetus to do that when minimum wage is artificially jacked up to where the market can't actually adjust to that.
Let's go back to that theme a little bit about the Governor Newsom there trying to undermine the president. This whole gerrymandering story. Have you been following this, Brian?
I've been following this indeed,
What do you make of this? Newsom wants to start up his own gerrymander campaign.
Well, I think it's fascinating because you can cause something like this to backfire if you're Newsom. I don't think Californians actually like what he's doing. I think they think he's doing it for himself. I love the fact that the governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, no fan of Trump, by the way, no fan of Trump, is out there saying this isn't right. In fact, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger who basically helped to spearhead a new way of doing districting in California that at least took it out of politicians' hands. And now he's out there saying Newsom's a friend of his, and he's saying this is wrong. So I think in California, you've got the problem of it's not easy to do business there. And now you've got the problem that Newsom is creating of a governor who has gone rogue and is working solely for his own national benefit. And I don't think Californians are going to like it. And I think I actually think Republicans could see gains in some ways coming out of all of this mess because of how much people dislike Newsom's self-serving approach here.
Dagan?
The all-caps social media post from Gavin Newsom, him trying to do his Penny Ante imitation of President Trump, the stench of desperation out of Newsom. If you needed another thing to drive people out of California, maybe that's it. When he was giving his little shindig speech about the gerrymandering last week, and he said, Los Angeles, the most diverse city in America. I'm like, no, not even close. I even know that off the top of my head. I live in the JC. I live in Jersey City, much more diverse than Los Angeles. Any of these East Coast cities, everything that comes out of the pompous pompadour's mouth is a lie. It's impossible for him to tell the truth. Here is the truth, that he ought to be careful. AI, if it's going to put And if it is putting people out of work, it's coders, it's career software developers. Claude from Anthropic, the latest generation, Claude 4.0, which came out earlier this year, best coding generator on the market. As a friend of mine told me, an H-bomb for career software developers. Also, because the venture capitalists in all of these firms are spending money so recklessly. If you call something AI, they're going to throw money at it. And so other industries in tech, other areas are being starved. Look at what Microsoft just laid off a bunch of people in video games. The entire video game industry is imploding, is collapsing in on itself. That's California. What's Newsom doing about it to save it, to encourage funding? He knows all of these people up north in the valley. He can't make sure that these sectors of tech are healthy and having money directed there? No. He's down jawboning in front of a group of donors about nothing. And it's very clear he supports people who are in this country illegally over people who are here legally and working and paying taxes. Highest tax rates in the country, another thing.
I just want to give a jump ball here on this story about David Brooks, the columnist from the New York Times, saying redistricting efforts in Texas by GOP peers is like mustard gas on democracy. Brian?
But about Illinois and Massachusetts, I'm sorry, but the hypocrisy.
If you're going after Texas, you better be way down the list of other states that you're going after. And I will say it again. I don't buy that doomsday, because I actually think when you gerrymander in ways that are fundamentally unfair, it can sometimes backfire on you. And it might, I don't think it's going to backfire in Texas, frankly, but it might in California. And by the way, if you do it in a really unjust way, everybody can see it, because the maps show it in all the ugly colors and all the little snakes in the districts.
I knew that would work. All right. Okay.
Oh, did I get fired up enough for you?
Yeah, that's what I wanted. Okay. Coming up, as students prepare to get back in the classroom, legal battles over school choice are playing out across the country. We'll